Anyway, in studio with us right now is Zach Nunn. We like calling on Zach for his military expertise. He is still in our military. And major, right? Still a major.
A lieutenant colonel now, Simon.
Oh, yeah, you got promoted.
Yeah.
I just demoted you.
At least
wow.
not fired, one or the other.
Wow. Is there a problem with the microphone, or is that your voice?
It might be me. Let's see here.
You're a little, you're a little croaky.
We've been out and about a lot of county fairs this weekend. So
I'm sure.
Making it back.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the microphone because there's weird stuff happening in the studio today, and indeed all week. We lost power here on the hottest day of the week, so fascinating.
Nothing like doing it old-fashioned style, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so Lieutenant Colonel, my sincere apologies. Wow. How did I mess that up? We want to talk to you about some of the military stuff that's happening, and we're going to start with the air because Pelosi goes to Taiwan. Absolutely, she should have done it. She probably should have done it years ago, but absolutely, she should have done it. And I support that. I would have loved it to have been a trip that included Republicans as well, because then it would have shown it was a true American thing and not a Democrat showboating thing, which a lot of people now are saying it was. But she was right to go in the face of Chinese attempts to bully us. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right to go. China's response, we talked about one yesterday, which honestly sounded straight out of Monty Python. Did you hear it? They temporarily banned the import from Taiwan of pastries and baked goods, which really sounded like a Monty Python skit to me. Today,
no more sweets. No more sweets for you.
No, but far more seriously, today they put 27 warplanes up, and they encroached upon Taiwan's airspace. Were they just flexing muscles, or were they trying to get a response from Taiwan?
No, this is twofold. First off, they are sending a direct response to the United States. Taiwan, in China's perspective, is our backyard. You stay out. A Beijing Monroe Doctrine, if you will. Two, I would agree the United States needs to stand shoulder to shoulder with Taiwan here, but doing it haphazard like this, a random drop-in as a way to stick it to Beijing, it's not an effective foreign policy. And the last time I checked, it's Secretary Blinken in the State Department that are supposed to be lead on America's foreign policy. The president appeared surprised that Pelosi was going to go.
Said he didn't think she should.
Right. And so if we want to really stand up to China, we have got to have a, full court press, not hey, today looks great for a press release, so I'm going to fly over, drop in, and then take off. Because at the end of the day, we're putting the Taiwanese at great risk from China overreacting. The pastry example is perfect. Last year I was working in the South China Sea.
Oh, no.
And we saw
You're sat in that chair for a reason, buddy.
China embargoed all pineapples coming out of Taiwan. And everyone laughed at him and said, oh, why in the world are you embargoing Taiwanese pineapples? Guess what? 95% of pineapples sold in Taiwan go to China. It was a great way for China to message directly to farmers in rural parts of Taiwan. Your government messes with us, we're going to crush your business. And the same is very likely true for the pastry industry. For these folks who don't know geopolitics, all they know is my business just went under. And that's directly because the United States does not have a consolidated policy to support Taiwan, but instead does political stunts in order to make themselves more popular on their Twitter feed.
It was bizarre in another way, which a lot of people are not actually talking about. So from where she was to Taiwan, quick hop. But instead of doing that, she takes a 3-hour detour around the South China Sea.
The Chinese exclusion zone.
Right.
Apparently China owns the entire South China Sea.
Right.
Much to the chagrin of the Philippines, Vietnam, Japan, every other U.S. ally in the air. So we'll poke our other allies in the eye by saying, I guess China does have a right to this, but we'll drop into Taipei just to say, we've got Taiwan's back as of now, and then take off again.
That's incredible. I mean, that really, that which really is not being covered properly,
right?
As far as I'm concerned,
if I'm China, I take that as
very important.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
So you have to look at all of these things because they really that is Pelosi saying, yeah, you own this. We're not messing with your airspace,
right?
With your floating islands, we're not messing with that. Okay. Well, the other big international news: Al Qaeda is clearly back in Afghanistan. The Taliban is clearly in breach of the agreement. No shock there. They were in breach when we were leaving.
Absolutely right.
So that's no shock there. But there's clearly Al Qaeda's back.
And this is the true irony. The Taliban claims the Doha Accords, which would say that Afghanistan is not going to be harboring terrorists, has an open, top-level accommodations. Al-Zakari, the number 2 after Osama bin Laden, living in fine dining in downtown Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, and being treated to very nice things by the Taliban, not only encouraging him, but earlier this week he was putting out more edicts directing his extremist followers to attack the United States and allies. So using it as a base of operation to attack U.S. interests. So compliments to both the intelligence community and to my brethren in arms who took the strike that executed that SOB this week.
Absolutely, and really precise.
You know what? I'm a former commander of a targeting unit, and I have seen them take out the second floor on a 5-story building with only a puncture weapon and evaporate everything on the second floor while leaving the rest of the building intact. This was even more precise than this. This is a double Hellfire strike on a balcony of a monument building, meaning a historical building that they didn't destroy. The family was fine inside, and Al-Zakari was dead and confirmed as a result.
Exactly right. So all that stuff's good,
It is.
And people were, I have to say, my text line, people were not in favor of Pelosi. They were not in favor of Biden giving that order. But to me, these are American things, and they are important that we do that. As I said, I think Pelosi's trip could have been better. It would have been better if there were Republicans on that trip. So it was genuinely an American thing. But the taking out of the Al-Qaeda's leader is an American thing.
We should all be grateful for this.
Yeah.
But, Simon, here's where I have real concern.
Yep.
When we abandoned Balad Air Base in Afghanistan a year ago, we fundamentally crippled our ability to have good intelligence collection on the ground. We're worse now than we were 9/11 in September nearly 20 years ago because we have very limited capability to ingress, and God forbid, if he wouldn't have been doing his morning prayer at 6 o'clock on the balcony, we would have had to take a much more lethal strike that could have hurt a lot more people. The other part of this is he's the guy who's the most noticeable. He's at the top of the pyramid. We have folks operating in that middle level of the pyramid in plain sight, supported by the Taliban in Afghanistan, who we have no insight into. And even if we did and are monitoring them, there's no good way to take those people out because we have abandoned our foothold at Balad to be able to take strikes at a time and place of our choosing.
So I'm aware, I've pointed out right at the beginning, you're active duty Lieutenant Colonel. I'm sure you are privy to classified material, and it goes without saying, I don't expect you to tell us any of that.
But, I have not, exactly right.
But clearly we have intelligence. Now, whether that is a technological intelligence from satellites or whether it's man intelligence on the ground somehow, some way, we apparently were aware that that was his routine. He went out on that balcony alone every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. We apparently knew that. That's public domain, by the way.
Right.
So we can talk about that. So it's either, there's only two ways we know that. It's technological intelligence, and we don't need to know which one, or it's human intelligence. Those are the only two ways. If we have human intelligence in Afghanistan, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And here's what I will say. After working the counterintelligence desk for almost 10 years, both the Russia desk and the China desk, to have good counterintelligence in a non-permissible environment like Afghanistan or Iran or China, you've got to have a good network build-up. And unfortunately, we have a bad history of leaving those allies behind.
Yeah, don't we ever? We're in the middle of a conversation with Zach Nunn. We've leaned on his expertise. We're going to take a very quick time out. We'll come back, and he's running for Congress. We'll talk about that as well. That's straight ahead. It is the Simon Conway Show. We leaned on his military expertise regarding China and the taking out of that terrorist. And now we're going to turn to the fact that he's running for Congress. So how's it going, do you think?
Hey, no, this is great. You know, we just came out of a couple of primaries across the country right now, and this has shaped up to be the number one race to beat an incumbent Democrat. And we know we got to beat 5 incumbents if we're going to win back a Republican majority come November.
Right.
We are taking it to the street. We have been out to all 21 counties repeatedly, just about every month, and going to county fairs as we highlighted, but also spending a lot of time door knocking, just talking to everyday Iowans. And overwhelmingly, it is conversations about inflation, what this means to my family, the economy, my job, supply chain. But increasingly, I'm getting a lot of pushback from, my Second Amendment guys who are saying, did Cindy Axne just vote to ban all assault rifles? And is she coming to my house and taking this? And this isn't just from your traditional, country club Republican. These are, card-carrying union member Democrats who are concerned that their Second Amendment right is going to be infringed. And we led a lot in the State House. We're very privileged by getting to get good things through here in Iowa. I want to make sure D.C. doesn't undo the good work that we've done.
Right. Now, look, it's always the economy, stupid, right?
Right.
And it is. It really is. And that is uppermost in everybody's mind. But there are always also one-issue voters.
Yeah.
Some of those will be Second Amendment. Some of those will be life.
Yep.
There's always one-issue voters as well. But definitely it's the economy. And, it's having an effect everywhere. It's affected my house.
Yeah.
Okay? We've changed the way we live. Before we were looking at 9.1% inflation. Before that, and it's probably going to be higher.
Right.
We'd get takeout a couple of times a week. We'd probably go to a restaurant once or twice a week as well. Okay, not anymore.
Right.
We're buying food for every night of the week. And we did actually go to a restaurant to celebrate a friend's birthday last weekend. But that was the reason. That's the reason we were there. We were celebrating a friend's birthday. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have done it.
Simon, we're in the same boat. We've got
you got
the
like
4
a
kids,
million
6
kids,
the 2 fosters. Every night's a ramen night at the Nunn household. Let me tell you.
Right.
But it's ridiculous that Washington is asking every Iowan to tighten their belt to the tune of an additional $5,000 a year per family in expense, while at the same time they're blasting out another bill for nearly $1 trillion. And they have the Orwellian view that if they name it the Inflation Reduction Act, somehow Americans are going to buy that stew.
If you get to D.C., and
God
by the
bless.
way, this works both sides of the aisle,
Right.
whatever they call the bill, the opposite is true.
So very true.
It really
disappointingly true.
Yes.
And here's what is so frustrating. In the same week that they can give a $50 billion subsidy to certain industries, the next week they can pass a bill that's looking at a 15% increase in corporate taxes. And this is, I think, you hit the nail on the head. There's one issue that everybody gets behind, and that's the economy. And when it gets to a point where during a recession, which we are now in,
Absolutely.
the federal government wants to increase taxes, to export U.S. jobs, and to move aggressively in harming American workers, American families, by asking them to spend less, pay more, but the government is going to blast out another $1 trillion printed money scheme to try and reduce taxes. And I'll tell you where that money's going.
Okay.
The bulk of it is going to increasing the size of the Internal Revenue Service. The numbers that came out this morning, the IRS will be as big as the entire city of Des Moines. Every person living in Des Moines would be working at the IRS, and more than half of that is going to go to audit small businesses. I just got endorsed this morning by the National Small Business Association and NFIB. Very humbled by that. But these are the lifeblood of our community. For the last 2 years, they've gotten kicked in the teeth with COVID. Iowa's been a leader on this and trying to lower their taxes. And here we are. We move forward 2 steps in Iowa, only to have Washington come in and crush them in the final year.
I want to go back to my very quick story before we run out of time, because, you see, we're not poor. I'm not saying we're poor. We're not. I don't have to think about paying the bills. I can pay the bills at home. It's never a struggle for me to pay the bills. The fact that we're doing this really should send a message. And the fact that we're doing this will have a knock-on effect. The restaurants, we're not going to. Think about that.
Right.
They're losing our business. We're not doing it. And we're not doing it because we can't afford to do it right now. And that's just our reality. And if you multiply me by however many hundreds or thousands of Iowans that are doing the same thing, restaurants are going to be hurting real quick, real soon.
Simon, you nailed it. We need solutions that work for literal working people. And here's the hard part. This new $1 trillion spending bill that's going to go out to reduce inflation is going to be a tax on the working families the most. People who are waitresses, people who are in the, guys that are changing your oil or working on your car. This is an area where we need to be able to support these folks, not crush them.
Give the website. We let every candidate do it.
Check me out, Zach Nunn, ZACHNUNN.com. We would really appreciate your support. A sign in the yard, a check in the mail means the world. We're going to be fighting hard for Iowa all the way through the next 98 days.
All right, and hopefully we'll see you at the Iowa State Fair.